What do you do with your hosting nowadays? Because recently, SiteGround for sure have put their prices up, and a lot of people got a big surprise when they got that renewal email come through, because all the hosting companies do it. You get this introductory price that looks fantastic, and then in the very small print is the renewal price. So probably the best thing to do is like switch hosting every couple of years, I guess. But switching hosting is a bit of a pain, isn't it? That's the
Such a
trouble.
pain. Yeah. Well, I'm actually starting a hosting company too to go in direct competition with you. No, I'm just
Cool.
kidding. I'm just kidding. No way.
Are you
That
still
sounds
with
like a
SiteGround, or who are you using?
yeah. So I have SiteGround. I have a few. I probably have the most accounts with them, and then I have MDD hosting as well. It's a small company
Yeah, no, I
out
know
of
MDD.
okay, yeah. So they do a good job, and I mean they had a big outage a couple years ago, which I was like, oh, maybe I'm gonna switch, but it was one of those like multiple fail-safe issues that occurred, and they had everything backed up, but it just took like 2 days to restore it because of the huge amount of bandwidth that they had to transfer, and it was an offsite backup. Blah blah blah. It'll probably never happen again because I had such a catastrophic issue. But I have several accounts with MDD. They're not as big or as sexy as some of the bigger companies, but they have very good customer service, and it's a little bit cheaper just in general for like the amount of resources that you're getting.
Yeah. Well, maybe we could talk. Maybe me and Phil can sort something out. Talking of hosting, though, I did a video just the other day. I've done a couple of videos on hosting because of the SiteGround renewals. I wanted to look into some of the cheaper hosting companies and just see if there was some good SiteGround alternatives, which there is. Like I just mentioned, Host Armada are very good, and I think if you use the code WP75, you'll get a discount there. That's an affiliate code. And also, I found a company called Cyberancy, which are offering hosting for free. Or their top package is like $3 a month, which is ridiculously cheap, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did a couple of videos where I tested these companies out. I installed a copy of one of my sites onto 5 or 6 different companies and tested out the speed, tested out how easy it was to get the site up and running. For example, Hostinger, which I'm sure you've heard of, I couldn't even get my site installed on those guys. The backup plugin that I used to kind of duplicate my site just wouldn't work. So they were kind of out straight away. And yeah, MDD actually did pretty well in my test. They were one of the companies that I tested. But I also did this other test for the tech support where I ticked the tick box of doom, as I like to call it, which is that tick box in WordPress that prevents search engines from indexing your site. And I ticked that box, and then I got in touch with each of the companies and said, hey, I'm getting this message from Google that my site can't be indexed. They're saying it's set to no index. What do you think it could be? And it was quite interesting, some of the responses I get. So, for example, SiteGround said, okay, yeah, well, that's a WordPress thing probably. So you should reach out and get a professional web developer to help you with that. So that wasn't too impressive. MDD hosting came back straight away and said, yeah, you should probably check this setting in WordPress, which was fine. Host Armada, after about an hour or so on live chat, they did get to the bottom of it. But yeah, it was interesting. And I know some people say that maybe you shouldn't test these hosting companies with WordPress problems because WordPress is separate. But I think that basic WordPress support is kind of expected now from hosting companies because a lot of them sell their hosting as WordPress hosting. So yeah,
Sure.
but that was quite fun. And I also after doing these videos, I had an email from my affiliate manager at SiteGround who was quite shirty with me, actually saying, oh, well, you're not pushing SiteGround anymore. And I kind of explained why. And she came back and I also said about them hiding their live chat, which is what they've done. It's quite hard to find the contact area in SiteGround. And she came back and admitted that they have done that on purpose because they haven't got enough staff to deal with everyone. So to reduce the number of support inquiries, they hid the live chat. So with the renewals from SiteGround and everything else, I've kind of gone off them a little bit, I will say. But
Interesting.
hey,
Well, I'm
there we
glad
go.
you mentioned that because
I originally started with what they called HostGator, and they were all good until they weren't. So
yeah.
you have to change your hosting maybe on a regular basis, and hosting companies change. Before HostGator, I was using a company called TSO Host, which are a UK-based hosting company. They were fantastic. But like all these companies, they got more popular, they got bigger, they got bought out by another company, and the service just declined. And yeah, you have to move on sometimes.
Yep. I think you nailed it. Same deal, same exact story with Bluehost for me. I I was fine with them for years, and then the support really went downhill. So, in the fact, I'm glad you shared that with us on the SiteGround hiding the chat, because I've said, oh, it's great support. You can almost always get in touch with someone. But if they bury that while they're raising their rates, it's like, okay, like they scaled
Yeah.
and grew too quickly and they can't support the customers that they have. So, okay.
Yeah, and the
Well,
way that they kind of go, if you mention anything to do with WordPress, they're like, "Oh, yeah, we're not touching WordPress. Go and get yourself a web developer."
yeah,
They're
that's
not really helpful.
bananas.
And like the hosting guys, I had the problem with the backup plugin. Um, they just said, "Oh yeah, well, it's probably a problem with your plugin, so off you go." Where obviously it wasn't a problem with the plugin because it had worked fine on the previous 5 hosting companies that I just run it on. So,
Weird.
and the thing is, if you're new to this business and it's your first website that you're setting up, and you get knocked by something not working like this, and then you don't get the support you need to move you forward, that could be the end of it. You could just throw the towel in and say, I'm not doing this, it's too hard. And I think that'd be a real shame to someone if they've taken that initial step to start building a website and they fall at the first hurdle because of bad hosting or bad support. I'm pretty pleased with Host Armada, but I'm still going to keep looking for some good hosts that are reasonably priced and still offer good support, because I think support is probably one of the main things when it comes to hosting.
Yep. And just goes to show the opportunity as well for maybe people that want to get started on YouTube or even start a blog. It seems like this hosting problem is solved, right? Like Alex and I have recommended different companies over the years, and then there's ups and downs, and we have to find other companies. So you can review, you literally probably, I think you mentioned one of your keywords, Alex, SiteGround alternative, and there's
Yeah,
probably Bluehost alternative. Like you can use these keywords, do videos, and I mean, your video that you mentioned here, I didn't watch it, but that's fantastic. You did a real live test. You loaded
yeah,
sites, you gave them a little normal, very common issue that people see. And you're like, okay, well, I'm going to document and show
it is a
exactly how
complex.
they
In fact,
react.
I've got a client, Phil knows, I mentioned it today. I've got a client. I didn't actually build their website. I just helped them. I added a WooCommerce booking system to it. They're a cleaning company. They clean student accommodation. So, God knows what they have to clean up. Like when a student leaves university, they go in and like deep clean everything. God, you can't imagine what they find. But they needed a booking app on their site, and I used WooCommerce, and I did that. But they not recently, actually, it was back in February, maybe even before, they took on a web developer to launch a new site with them, and they wanted to keep my booking system, which is all fine. And Phil hosts the site for me. But I did a quick search for them today because I wanted to check out their site, and I typed in their company name into Google, and they weren't coming up. And I quickly had a quick look in their WordPress, and yeah, again, it was the tick box of doom had been ticked. The web developer they'd used had launched the site, had not unticked the box, and they have not been getting any search traffic. As I say, I think it was since February. Oops.
Wow.
Happens to us all. I've done it before as well. I noticed it a bit quicker. I think I had one client that didn't have any traffic for about a month, and I managed to kind of get around it. But I think they should maybe get rid of that box in WordPress. I think it causes more trouble than it's worth.
I think so too. I mean, there's other ways to do it and make it a little bit harder to get to. Because I mean, people have good intentions when they do it, but it turns out, I mean, you should be so lucky if someone accidentally got to your site when you weren't ready for them to get
When you
to
were
it.
still
I mean,
building it, yeah.
that's fantastic if you're able to pull it off.
Yeah,
So
Kevin has actually got a video idea there. Maybe you want to get on it first. We should do a video on how to contact SiteGround support and show
yes,
everyone where the live chat is.
and then make sure you get all your checks from them first, and they don't owe you any money.
That is
So
the other thing when it comes to recommending hosting companies. They all, it's a very competitive market. They all offer very interesting remuneration to affiliates, don't they? And it's very easy as a YouTuber in this space to get tempted. When these companies are saying, we'll pay you $200 for each customer, that kind of thing.
yeah,
Like hosting did, they offered me the best affiliate rate, but I'm still not recommending them because they're not very good. So
yeah,
I think and I think that's the key in all affiliate marketing. You've got to keep that integrity, however much someone is willing to pay you in order to promote their stuff. You've still only got to promote stuff that you believe in and that you think's good. Otherwise, it's going to be a very short-term career, I think, isn't
right.
it?